Imagine a person sitting in a room. The walls are warm, the chair is soft, the light is dim but not threatening. Everything feels safe, predictable, controlled. The person believes they are free, until one day they try to leave. That's when they notice the door isn't just closed, it's locked. And the terrifying realization hits. They have been living in a prison all along, but mistaking it for safety. Now here's the question. What if that person is you? Every single one of us craves comfort. We seek out the familiar because it gives us certainty. From the foods we eat, to the people we spend time with, to the way we structure our careers, we love predictability. It's wired into our biology. Evolution taught us that stability meant survival. But here's the paradox. The very thing that once kept us alive can also keep us from living. Comfort zones feel like havens, but over time they can become cages. And the bars aren't always obvious. They're made of routines, habits, fears, and expectations so subtle that you don't notice them until years slip away. Today, we're going to break this down. We'll look at why we cling to safety, how stagnation creeps in, how we unknowingly build the walls of our own prison, how to recognize the signs that you're trapped, and most importantly, how to break free. Because make no mistake, if you're not careful, your comfort zone won't just slow you down, it will steal your future. The comfort zone is one of life's most deceptive landscapes. On the surface, it looks inviting, even nurturing. It feels like the cozy living room you never want to leave. The couch is molded perfectly to your body. The air is set at just the right temperature, and the quiet hum of familiarity wraps around you like a blanket. You know exactly where everything is, and nothing ever surprises you. It feels like safety. But here's the problem. Safety and growth rarely live in the same house. What masquerades as protection is often a prison built so subtly that you don't realize you're behind bars until you try to step outside. Human beings have always sought predictability. Thousands of years ago, predictability was survival. Knowing where to find food, when to migrate, where predators lurked, these patterns kept our ancestors alive. The problem is that our biology hasn't evolved nearly as fast as our society. What was once a survival mechanism has now become a trap. In the modern world, comfort isn't about escaping lions in the wild. It's about settling for routines that keep us from ever chasing our own greatness. The allure of comfort is magnetic. Imagine finishing a long day of work, coming home, and slipping into your routine. Dinner at the same table, the same shows queued up, scrolling through the same feeds, reading the same voices who validate what you already believe. This rhythm dulls the edges of uncertainty, and for a while, it feels good. It feels earned. But the longer you live in this loop, the more it erodes the part of you that craves challenge. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and somewhere along the way, that restless spark, the one that once whispered, "What if?" fades into silence. What's dangerous about comfort is how quietly it morphs into complacency. It doesn't happen in a sudden shift, like a trapdoor snapping shut. Instead, it seeps in drip by drip. Maybe you stop trying new things because they feel unnecessary. Maybe you silence ambitions by saying, "It's not the right time." Maybe you convince yourself that stability is all you should want. Before long, the walls of your comfort zone are so close around you that they feel like part of your skin. The tragedy is that you don't recognize the prison until the monotony starts to suffocate you. The first warning signs are rarely dramatic. They're subtle, almost ignorable. A faint restlessness creeps in. You feel tired, but not from exertion. Tired in your soul, in a way that sleep doesn't fix. The activities that used to bring joy now feel muted. That new project you once dreamed of starting, you push it aside. The adventure you once imagined, moving to a new city, starting a side business, writing that book, learning that instrument, suddenly feels reckless, unrealistic, unnecessary. And so you stay. You stay because staying feels easier than venturing into the unknown, even as staying slowly chips away at the best parts of who you are. This is the illusion of safety. And it's an illusion because the world outside your comfort zone is always moving. Life is not static. If you're not growing, you're declining. If you're not moving forward, you're being left behind. The danger of staying inside your comfort zone is that you believe you're preserving stability when, in reality, you're surrendering your future. But here's the unsettling truth. Most of us build these prison walls ourselves. Nobody else locks us in. Fear is the mason, and our thoughts are the bricks. The biggest fear is the fear of the unknown. It is so much easier to deal with a situation you already understand, even if it's mediocre, even if it's unfulfilling, than to step into something unfamiliar. That's why people stay in jobs that slowly drain their spirit, or in relationships that no longer nurture them, or in routines that offer no growth. Uncertainty terrifies us, so we choose the predictable prison over the possibility of freedom. This fear isn't random, it's baked into our wiring. Psychologists call it loss aversion. We are programmed to fear loss more than we desire gain. The thought of risking what little comfort we have feels more terrifying than the possibility of achieving something greater. And so we choose the familiar over the potential, even when the familiar is suffocating us. Then come the ghosts of past failures. Think back to a time you tried something and stumbled. Maybe you launched an idea that didn't work. Maybe you took a risk and were ridiculed. Maybe you invested in something that collapsed. These scars linger in our minds far longer than our successes. They whisper reminders every time we consider taking another leap. Remember the last time you tried? Remember how that ended? And so we stop trying altogether, letting our past failures act as prison guards, patrolling the perimeter of our lives. Society plays its part too. Expectations weigh heavily. There's an unwritten script we're all told to follow. Go to school, get a job, climb the ladder, buy the house, retire quietly. Deviate from the script, and people start questioning you. Why would you leave a secure job? Why risk starting a business? Why move away from stability? These voices become chains. They sound rational, but in reality, they're fear disguised as advice. Slowly, you absorb those expectations, and they harden into walls. The most insidious barriers are the limiting beliefs we tell ourselves. These are the invisible bars, the ones that require no external reinforcement. I'm not talented enough. It's too late for me. I don't have what it takes. These phrases may seem like thoughts, but they're really shackles. Repeat them long enough, and they become your reality. Not because they were ever true, but because you believe them into existence. Recognizing these prison walls is the first step toward freedom, but it's not easy. Because by the time you notice them, they've already blended seamlessly into your daily life. How do you know if you're trapped? Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt excited to wake up in the morning? When was the last time your heartbeat raced with anticipation instead of anxiety? Do you feel alive, or do you feel like you're just moving through the motions? If your days blend into each other, if your passion feels dim, if a quiet dissatisfaction follows you no matter what you achieve, those are the signs that you're not living free. And here's the cruel irony. Staying in the comfort zone carries a cost far greater than stepping out. The cost is regret. When researchers interviewed people at the end of their lives, the overwhelming theme wasn't regret for what they had done, but regret for what they never dared to do. They wished they had taken more risks, pursued more passions, spoken their truths. Regret is the heaviest prison of all, because you can't escape it once the clock runs out. So how do you break free? Not through a dramatic overnight escape. Transformation rarely happens in one grand gesture. It begins with small acts of courage, tiny cracks in the walls that let the light in. The key is discomfort. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. Every step outside the familiar feels awkward, maybe even painful, but each step expands the boundaries of your world. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow or move to another continent overnight, but you do need to start saying yes to things that scare you. You need to lean into uncertainty, even in small doses. With each act, you teach yourself that discomfort isn't danger, it's discovery. Breaking free also requires a shift in mindset. Instead of seeing challenges as roadblocks, you must see them as stepping stones. This is the growth mindset, the belief that every failure is feedback, every obstacle a lesson, every setback a setup for a greater comeback. People who adopt this mindset transform fear into fuel. They don't ask, "What if I fail?" They ask, "What will I learn?" The journey is easier when you surround yourself with others who dare. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. Spend time with people who live boldly, who refuse to be confined by invisible walls, who see life as a vast landscape to explore rather than a cage to survive in. Their energy will ignite your own. And once you taste that freedom, once you feel the exhilaration of living beyond the bars, you'll wonder why you ever settled for less. Because life outside the comfort zone isn't just about risk, it's about possibility. It's about passion, fulfillment, discovery. It's where you learn who you really are and what you're capable of. The greatest artists, innovators, and leaders in history were the ones who dared to step outside the prison of comfort. They were ridiculed, doubted, even mocked, but they refused to let the illusion of safety dictate their reality, and in doing so, they changed the world. The contrast between staying and leaving could not be more stark. On one side, you have safety, sameness, predictability. On the other, you have growth, challenge, and the exhilarating uncertainty of what you might become. One is survival, the other is life. And so the question becomes, which will you choose? Because comfort zones don't stay neutral. The longer you stay, the more they shrink, until eventually they consume you entirely. But the moment you take that first step into discomfort, the walls begin to fall. You begin to expand. You begin to live. The prison you're in is not made of concrete. It's made of choices, fears, and beliefs. And just as you built it, you can dismantle it. The key has always been in your hand. The only thing left is the decision to use it. Recent studies in neuroscience reveal that the brain thrives on novelty. When you try new experiences, your brain forms new neural connections, improving memory, creativity, and emotional resilience. Meanwhile, living in monotony weakens those connections. In other words, your brain itself gets trapped when your life does. We're also seeing this play out culturally. Post-pandemic, millions realized their old routines weren't serving them. They quit jobs, moved cities, started businesses. It's proof that breaking out of comfort zones isn't just theory. It's happening now. And those who dare are rewriting their futures. So what if your comfort zone really is your prison? The truth is, it probably is. But here's the good news. You hold the key. The moment you step into discomfort, even in the smallest way, you start unlocking the door. Don't let fear, routine, or limiting beliefs steal your potential. Design your future. Take risks. Push boundaries. Live fully. Because safety is an illusion, but freedom, growth, and fulfillment, those are real. So let me leave you with one question. Will you keep sitting in the prison you've built, or will you finally step out into the unknown and live? Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really appreciate you watching. If you found this useful, a like would be fantastic, and subscribing helps me keep creating content you'll hopefully enjoy. Please share your experiences and any questions in the comments. I always try to read and respond. Your support keeps this channel going. Until our next video, take care and have a wonderful day.